Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. I am your host, Josh Abrams, and today we have an hour-long extravaganza. You're welcome, Tyler. We're going to talk about the Eagles' big win on Sunday. That is right, we are Super Bowl 52 champions. We're going to get all into the player stats, the game stats, and whatnot, and we're going to do a little bit of a season recap and some off-season and future talk. You're going to come back right after the intro.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
And welcome back from that intro. We're going to get into the game recap from this past Sunday. It was the highest scoring game in NFL, or not highest scoring, excuse me, highest offense game in NFL history with almost 1,200 combined yards. It started off shaky with, or maybe not shaky, but with an Eagles strong first drive that only ended in a field goal, but we were able to hold the Patriots to a field goal on the next drive. We were able to score on the next drive. However, Jake Elliott missed an extra point. And it was a strong first half overall as the Eagles and Patriots went back and forth. And at the very end of the first half, we got a quote-unquote Philly special from Nick Foles and Doug Peterson. The end-around route from Trey Burton to Nick Foles for that amazing touchdown put us up 10 at halftime. Third quarter was starting to shift towards the Patriots a little bit. They got the ball to start the second half, and Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski were connecting, especially on that first drive that cut the lead back down to 3. And then things started to take what everyone thought might have been a little bit of a turn when we only got a field goal on an ensuing possession to go up 6. Fourth quarter came along, and the Patriots took what everyone thought would be their fourth or fifth lead of the game. It was only their first lead of the game with 9:22 remaining in the fourth quarter. And then the biggest drive in Eagles history occurred afterwards, a 4th-and-1 conversion to Zach Ertz at around midfield. And then the Zach Ertz touchdown pass that decided it all with about 4 minutes or so left decided the game. Brandon Graham, who was my MVP for the game, had a strip sack at the only turnover for the Eagles on Tom Brady. And as a result, we got to midfield, and Jake Elliott was able to use his clutch leg, as we'll get into later, to give us an 8-point lead. However, it would not be over from there. 58 seconds and no timeouts for Tom Brady is more than enough time, and he was able to get his team to midfield. And one last Hail Mary heave to Rob Gronkowski was incomplete. The clock hit 0 in that mesh, and there you have it. The Eagles are finally Super Bowl champions. There's no better feeling to say that. And we're going to get into that later. But first, let's hear what longtime Eagles great Merrill Reese had to say about that.
Brady lines them up. He's back again. He steps up. He's hit. He stumbles. He is throwing it deep for the end zone. And it is batted around and incomplete. And the game is over. The game is over. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.
And there you see Dougie P getting splashed with the green Gatorade. That was one of the prop bets about what color the Gatorade would be. But he got splashed with Gatorade for one last time in the 2018 season. Let's talk about this, guys. I said before during the recap that it was the most amount of yards in one game, 41-33 final. The Eagles came out on top. Thoughts and opinions, reactions?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone thought that both defenses would play better going into this game. Eagles defense obviously was one of the best units in the postseason, and the Patriots always have a great defense. So I think everyone was surprised at the offensive explosion from both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about the big plays that happened throughout this game. You get to this point, your team is good enough. Talk about the big plays that happened in the game, guys.
In this game, I always go back to that Phillies special because fourth down, and your head coach lets the quarterback make the call for a trick play. Like that changed the game to me. That and the fumble forced by Brandon Graham that was recovered by Barnett. Those two plays really changed this game.
Yeah, that Philly special. I mean, honestly, that's one of the more crazier moves I've ever seen. Not even just the championship, just in a game of football, because like you really just pull it out of your back pocket and you just let it out there, see if it works. So I mean, honestly, I was sweating like crazy when I saw it, but I mean, it worked out. So I love it, honestly.
Yeah, a lot of gutsy calls overall from both teams, especially on that 4th and goal. You know, it was towards the end of the second half, but there was plenty of time. God forbid if the Eagles didn't get that conversion, for Tom Brady to just drive down the field. And the same goes for later on in the game. We'll get into the latter stages later on in the show, but that touchdown from Trey Burton and Nick Foles essentially kept the momentum on our side.
Yeah, and you mentioned that if they hadn't scored, then they plenty of time for Brady to march down the field, and we've seen Brady do that all year. But a stat I saw was throughout the entire year, the Eagles did not let up a single point in the last 2 minutes of the first half, which is just the definition of a clutch defense. And I think that's a lot of what that got them here. You know.
Yeah, I think their defense didn't come through as much in the Super Bowl as they did throughout the whole season, but they still showed up, like I said, with that fumble. And I mean, I think the Patriots defense, we didn't expect them to play that well anyway, so I'm not surprised. But I don't know, the defense really did come up too.
Another thing I was shocked about with the Patriots was that Malcolm Butler didn't play, and I know there's a lot of back talk, rumors about like what's up with that, and but I mean, when it comes down to the actual game itself, it really doesn't shock me that he didn't even see the field once. So I mean, hopefully we figure out some more information about that and we figure out like what actually happened. But I mean, I don't know if he comes in the game and changes it completely, or if his presence was even like going to do anything. But I mean, we won, so it doesn't matter.
Everyone's talking about like the moment that they knew that the Eagles won. I think I knew the Eagles were going to win when Alshon Jeffrey caught that first touchdown pass and Eric Rowe was covering him.
Yeah.
I was like, what are they doing? They're going to win this game.
That was really interesting, seeing a familiar face of Eric Rowe in place of Malcolm Butler.
Yeah, a lot of big plays throughout this game, and what you were alluding to, Dave, about Malcolm Butler not being in the game, that's something we can't control. It's something we don't really know what would have happened if Malcolm Butler had been covering Alshon Jeffrey. Let's talk about arguably the biggest play of the game. I said going into the Super Bowl, guys, that we would win if we won the turnover battle. Well, the turnover battle turned out to be a tie at one apiece, but our turnover came in the latter stages of that game. My MVP, Brandon Graham, made that strip sack.
Yeah, I mean, great play. I mean, I think no one was really expecting that, the way that Brady got out the ball so quickly the entire game, and then the one time he really held on to the ball, Brandon Graham was able to make him miss and get that ball out of his hand and ice the game.
I'm sorry, I have to say, I wasn't expecting it to happen then, but like the whole game, I was like screaming at the TV. I was like, I need a sack. I need a sack. I need one sack. If we got one sack, I knew that would make the whole offense just shaky, because like everyone's used to Tom Brady not getting touched. So like as soon as that strip sack happened, I was like, oh, that's the moment I realized we won. I was like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like we won.
Like you were saying,
Yeah,
the moment
right,
we
yeah.
knew that, I think that was the moment I knew. I sat on my floor and I was like stunned. Like I was so stunned because I mean he's Tom Brady, so you know he's gonna do what Tom Brady does. And then you see Brandon Graham attack him and strip that ball, and then I like it was so fast. Derek Barnett picked it up and I was like.
Yeah,
this is it.
That's typically what happens when the ball, once the ball leaves your hand, it's a whole frenzy because everyone's diving for it. The ball can bounce either which way, whatever have you, and luckily it fell for us.
Yeah, Derek Barnett is an absolute speed demon. I mean, he basically has one kind of rush, and it's a speed rush. So when you put like him and Chris Long on the field at the same time, Chris Long always goes for the ball. So as soon as that ball hits the ground, Derek Barnett is on it. Like if you look, they've had at least one or at least 3 fumble recoveries together throughout the season, and they are just a great combination looking throughout the rest of the rest of their contracts.
I know we have MVP for the season, and
Yeah.
we're gonna get to that. But like, if I didn't pick who I picked, I would have picked Derek Barnett because like each week he just got better and better.
Yeah.
It was just great to see him improve. Like, and for him to pick up that the fumble, I was actually kind of shocked because I think it was the Raiders game on Christmas Day. There was a fumble again, and he missed it, and one of the linemen on the Raiders got it, and I was like that can't happen again.
Right.
And he actually proved that like he can actually make plays like that. So I mean, to see him just improve over the season, it was really.
And one more
fantastic.
thing before we move on, Nick Foles, the Super Bowl MVP. Did you guys see that happening at all in this game?
I think you could tell.
Yeah.
I think the way he played, he was MVP from the start to finish of that game. There was nobody else it could have been.
And I think the reason that Doug Peterson and Andy Reid offenses have so much success against Belichick, is that he tries to take away your number one offense, or number one weapon, I should say. But in those offenses, they don't really have a number one weapon. So when you're going to everyone, the quarterback, kind of has to be the MVP for facilitating that.
Yeah, definitely a big thing for Nick Foles and Doug Peterson to have that connection. I think that Dougie P had a big part of that. Let's go to Doug Peterson's speech in the locker room after the game.
I can't tell you how happy I am. I really am. You're world champions, man.
World champions.
You're world champions. I mean, just look around. Just look around, okay? Hey, this is what you guys have done, right? This is what you've accomplished. You guys get on me a lot about, dress code and the way we practice and doing things. And guess what? It's for this moment right here. Yes, sir. For this moment. It's the discipline that it takes, okay, to win this game. To win this game. And this is a team game, okay? We said before, an individual can make a difference, but a team makes a miracle. Yeah. Tonight, guys, hey, you did it. Hey, you did it against a fine football team. Yeah. When you're asked, you're complimentary. Yeah, that's right. At the same time, we are going to party.
Dougie P holding his finger up right there, just like Sean holding his hand up, telling me to come back. What an amazing speech overall. There must be no better feeling than for Doug Peterson in his second year, to come back and just win it all. What an amazing game, amazing everything. Another player that we want to talk about in this game, and Tyler, you had him as your MVP last week, Corey Clement. He was the only 100-yard receiver for the Eagles in this game, and he's our third-string running back.
Yeah, and you see right there a breakout game for Corey Clement, and he did. He had an incredible game. But even a few games earlier this year, he had that 3-touchdown game. I forget who it was, but he's another guy that keeps getting better every single week. And again, we have our season MVPs we're not going to get to right now, but if I had to pick a most excited about player for next year, it would be Corey Clement, because I am just so excited to see what he can do as the number 2 or 3, running back.
And on a team that has so many running backs, Blunt, Ajayi, he's really made himself stand out, even as a rookie. So I think there's a lot of exciting stuff to see from Corey Clement in the future.
Oh yeah, I would like to say shout outs to South Jersey, high five real quick. Going to the South. I remember actually in high school, I think it was a sophomore, he was a senior. I remember looking at the stats and stuff. This man broke not only his high school record, he broke the state record, and then I was looking, I was like, this man is going to be really good. And then I remember, my junior, he was talking about, I want to play for the Eagles one day. I was like, that would be crazy if he played for the Eagles one day. And now we're here talking about him winning the Super Bowl. So, the way that stepped up, you don't know what life's going to take you, but
exactly.
That was just insane.
Yeah, and that story, and there's probably millions of other stories regarding players and maybe personal experiences. But that just shows you that dreams can become a reality. And when it hits home for someone like you, Dave, that's definitely amazing. Let's move on to what was another top. There's in big games like this, there's so many big plays. There's so many top plays. I would rate this as a top 5, maybe top 3 biggest play of the game. The connection from Nick Foles to Zach Ertz, the game winner that essentially gave the Eagles the lead for good. A little bit of a stat line here. We got 7 receptions and 67 yards, which is always solid for a tight end, but that one touchdown came in the latter stages of the game, and it gave us that permanent lead. Talk about how you guys were feeling after that play, especially with the ball juggling at the end.
I didn't think there was any question, honestly. He took 3 steps before he caught it. Some of the other ones, like the Jesse James catch,
or you mean 3 steps after he caught it.
3 steps after he
established himself as a runner,
right?
And there was obviously no question that he was in.
Right, but Go ahead. Yeah.
I think commentators like Chris Collinsworth will kind of challenge that because it's the Super Bowl, so you want to make it interesting and you want to add controversy to it. But there is no question, like you said, he established himself as a runner. He had both of his feet in bounds. He still had possession of the ball when he went down. So it's a touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it was the Patriots, it would have been called a touchdown. So
little bias there, but go ahead.
He really is old reliable. I mean, any time that Carson Wentz or Nick Foles has wanted something done, they go to him. Like even earlier in that drive, the 4th and 1.
He's missed the first down.
Yeah, he's just old reliable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was about to say that, honestly. I don't need to say anything else.
All right, and one other player that we really haven't talked about, he comes over from the special teams aspect of the game, Jake Elliott, the kid that we signed from the Cincinnati Bengals. He was cut. He was no good, especially according to Marvin Lewis. Well, he hit that field goal, which is point the fingers at him. Point the ring at him. Dude. Jake Elliott hits that field goal with about a minute left in the game, puts us up by 8 instead of 5. How big of a field goal was that, guys?
It was huge.
I'm honestly, as soon as they set him up there, I was like, well, this is going through. I have all confidence in him when it's not an extra point, honestly. I don't know how that works out, but it was just crazy
it was longer than 35 yards, so it was guaranteed to be made. So that's all that really matters with him.
Yeah, and you look at Jake Elliott and how he progressed this season. He started off with might not have started off with too much of a bang, but in week 3 he hits that 61-yarder to give us the win over the Giants. And if we don't win that game, then if we go into overtime, you never know what happens. But Jake Elliott, essentially the unsung hero in some of our games this season.
It's like the season started with that 61-yard field goal. All like the hype videos and everything really started with that play, because that's when you kind of knew that there was something special about that team. We couldn't have done it without him.
And then remember when Carson Wentz said, "I'll give him my game check if he hits it." You want to talk about? I don't know if that's confidence. I don't know if that's just playful betting or whatever, but you had to figure that he had some type of faith in his kicker. And then you look at Jake Elliott compared to Caleb Sturgis. We had a full season with Caleb Sturgis, and it's also one of those things where you don't know what would happen if we had Caleb Sturgis. But Jake Elliott, for just being a part of this team, is as exciting of a player, especially on the special teams aspect, because while he struggles to hit extra points, he can hit those 40 to 50, even 60-yarders.
Yeah, it seems like he's got the accuracy when it comes to longer kicks, but when he's up close, he's a little shoddy. But still, he's coming clutch in really important situations for this team, and I think that's what matters.
And I wonder how much that has to do with, we had a new long snapper this year, and I don't know if that might have something to do with it, just because John Dorenbos had that chemistry for so many years, and that might have had something to do with it.
Speaking of John Dorenbos, apparently he's performing magic at Sugar House Casino in March now.
Okay. He was at the game, too.
He was at the game, and he did end up getting a ring, which was really nice because someone who dedicates so much time to the organization. He is really lucky that the Eagles traded him, because if we don't trade him, he potentially dies, which is it's vulgar and it's gruesome to think about. Yeah. But if we don't trade him away, he doesn't find that aortic aneurysm in his heart. Yeah. It's very sensitive and painstaking. Yeah. But very happy for him that he got the ring. So let's go to Jason Kelsey and his post-game locker room speech.
It's hard to put into words, man. The best quote I could come up with, and this is for Philadelphia, for getting our first ring in organization history, the first ring in a history organization, from Rocky Balboa himself. It's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. It's about how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. And that's been this organization. That's been this team all year. No matter what we face, we've overcome it. No matter who's went down, franchise quarterback, franchise left tackle, franchise middle linebacker. We've overcome everything. Nobody counted us in all year. The media. I mean, the entire nation, nobody thought this was going to happen. I'm just so happy for every single one of these guys. I'm so happy for this organization. It's been a long time coming, and I'm so happy for the city of Philadelphia and our fans, because you guys have deserved this for a long time, and the fact that I have been able to provide that, it's awesome, man. You did it. Yes. You did it. Get the parade down Broad Street ready, baby. Underdogs.
I don't think we're ever going to see a Super Bowl speech like that ever again. Jason Kelce, the epitomizer of all Philadelphia sports. We're going to take a quick commercial break, though, and when we come back, we're going to talk about all of our picks for MVP.
This is Kevin, and Kevin could use some kindness. Here's Ian. He could be that man. Ian chooses to be inconsiderate and not hold the door for Kevin, and in turn, Kevin suffers. Kindness may be a choice, but doing so is always the right one. So if Ian can make the right choice, you can too.
And welcome back from the commercial break. We are back here on this hour-long extravaganza. And I am joined here. I forgot to mention them earlier, but these are my amazing panelists. Tyler Pittis is to my left, and Selena Bemak to his left, and to the far left down there is our very own Dave Roberts, the always smiling Dave Roberts. let's get into our picks for MVP this season. My MVP. And I don't know if you could really argue for a legitimate MVP, but Lane Johnson, someone who was suspended for 10 games last year and essentially because of that downgraded our season. This season he played in all 15 games that he started. Obviously he sat out for the Dallas game. He only allowed on him 1 sack all season, and he is 19-4, or not he rather, but the team. The Eagles under the Doug Peterson era are 19-4 with Lane Johnson on that offensive line. Clearly having him to block Carson Wentz and our running backs has helped us all season.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder what could have been last year because we just played so well with him before and after he came back. Leader on the offensive line is really what you can say. I mean, 1 sack allowed all season, and I'm sure that Vaitai learned a lot from him too because we saw Vaitai improve. Yeah, just an overall great part of this team.
I think they had a great offensive line, but I think Lane Johnson is arguably the best offensive lineman in the entire
on the
NFL.
Team.
No,
in the NFL. Okay,
no,
that's bold.
On the team, I think especially because Jason Peters has been hurt all season, but I think in the league too is arguable, definitely.
Sure.
I think the reason that he doesn't get that kind of attention too is because he's a right tackle. He's not a left tackle, so he's never going up against the premier defensive ends. But you can only stop what you get.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
In the beginning of the season when Carson Wentz was still playing, I used to always complain that he spent too much time in the pocket, but he had the time to spend there. So.
Yeah.
So let's move on to your MVP, Tyler. You had Malcolm Jenkins, rightfully so, essentially the leader of our defense, the vocal leader and the physical leader. Talk about why you picked him as your MVP.
Well, after Jordan Hicks went down, it really could have been easy for this defense to fall apart. But having a guy like Jenkins that can be plugged in anywhere really helped this defense. He was a leader. He was calling plays, and he was playing everywhere. There's a reason I think that he went last at the parade yesterday speaking. It's because the team really looks to him as a team leader, as like the moral compass. He's the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for the Eagles every year. He's just an overall, great leader of this team.
I mean, I'm sorry.
No, go
personally, honestly, he's a really good leader off the field too, because with all these protests about the national anthem, even though it's not about that. I mean, he's been a leader just in the community of Philly itself, and just there's so many young eyes on him. I mean, he's really just a good example of what type of a captain to be on the field and off the field at the same time.
Yeah, so while Malcolm Jenkins was the leader of the team vocally and physically, especially in the secondary, let's move to your MVP pick for this season, Selena, Fletcher Cox. The man up front who just does it all, right?
Yeah, Fletcher Cox, you can see 26 tackles, 5.5 sacks. I think he's earning that contract. It's a big contract, we know. I was unsure of it when he signed it, but I think he's finally earning that contract. Fletcher Cox was in everybody's face every single game, and his celebrations are another thing that makes him really a fan favorite. I think he does get a lot of hype. I don't want to say he's underrated, but I do think he deserves a lot of the hype he gets. But real quick, I wanted to plug honorable mention, who if I didn't pick Fletcher, I think I would have picked Chris Long.
Okay.
Chris Long had a great season, doesn't get a lot of recognition for it, and donated all of his checks. So
so it's about the off the field stuff sometimes that really shows how what a player is. Dave, your pick, someone who everyone wanted off the Eagles last year, boy, did he improve this season. Nelson Aguilar, baby. Talk about him, Dave.
If you see the stats on the screen right now: 62 receptions, 768 yards, and 8 touchdowns, all career highs. Because I think his low, not even his rookie season, his low was last year. This man had 1 touchdown the whole year. Let me see. 69 targets last year, and he only had 44 receptions. And he only caught about 52% of the passes that. Oh my God! This man was literally dirt last year. No one wanted him. I didn't even want him. I was like, get this man off the team. He can't catch. He's nothing. This year he stepped it up to the next level. It wasn't even just the next level, and it was crazy to see. And this is. I mean, you talk about exciting players. This is someone who I think could actually step it up even a little bit more. Being a dangerous wide receiver on the outside and just. And Carson Wentz coming back here, I think you just sling it to him. There's too much to talk about, honestly.
This is all, go ahead.
Putting him in the slot changed him.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean, we saw 2 touchdowns his rookie year, 1 touchdown his second year, and 8 touchdowns this year.
Sometimes third time's the charm, and essentially when you look at the moves that the Eagles made in the offseason, it worked out.
And there's been talk about Mike Groh replacing John DeFilippo's job at quarterback coach, but I don't want him to. He's done a great job as a wide receivers coach. All of those wide receivers, with the exception of maybe Torrey Smith, have had some of the best years of their careers.
We potentially could be looking at a very scary 1-2 punch with Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar, given Jeffrey's contract situation and Nelson Aguilar's youth, and maybe him signing a big deal later on. But we're going to get into everything that unfolded yesterday. So today's Friday, and if you haven't tuned in yet, maybe you're wondering, why are we shooting this on Friday? Well, that was because usually when we shoot the shows around 4 o'clock on Thursday, and by that time, I think every one of us were dead from the parade yesterday. Yesterday was, in fact, our very first Super Bowl parade. I'm gonna throw it over to a quick video of the Eagles coming out of their exit tunnel at the game. of that video footage thanks in part to Sports Talk's very own Kevin Cook, and just amazing and amazing everything, as I keep on saying. Let's talk about the parade yesterday, guys. I'm sure we all went down. We all had a great time. How was it when they passed by you guys for the first time?
My feet still hurt. I just want to I need a bath. I need just to relax. But yeah, it was pretty hectic out there. I mean, I've never seen more people just in one place at one time. It was.
You know, I think it's yeah. Go ahead.
That's exactly it. You say your feet hurt. That's Philly. I mean, Eagles fans are going to do that. You know, we saw when the players got home, they were lining up outside the NovaCare complex. They were lining up outside the airport. Anywhere this team goes now for the rest of their lives, Eagles fans will follow.
They'll just pop up out of the blue.
We can see here. This is the locker room, but just yeah, the fans are absolutely insane, and they love their Eagles. That's what I learned yesterday.
What really helps in that type of situation is just the fact that as you see just, you know, people in the streets there, like the cars are driving by, they could get run over for all we know, and they wouldn't care. The Eagles won their very first Super Bowl. There's more there on the field. You can just feel it. You could just sense it all over the place.
It was weird. Like when I got there early, but people got there early. I got there early, and let me tell you, I was sitting there. I was like, man, my feet hurt. Like I'm tired. And then I saw the buses come down, and I was like, oh, this is real. And then I saw Jeffrey Lurie take out the trophy, and I was like, oh, this is really real. It was some type of experience. So, I mean, it was definitely all worth it for sure.
It was a cold day. And it was a long day, but I would not have been anywhere else but that parade.
Yeah, and I was up by Elkins Oval, and you knew, even though we couldn't see, you knew when those buses turned the corner and started going down the Parkway, because the world just got electric, and everyone started cheering, and you know you could see all of your favorite players, and the hours standing out in the cold suddenly became absolutely worth it.
Let's talk about this real quick. So it's been almost 10 years since the city of Philadelphia saw a championship. We finally get one, but instead of going from north to south, where we would finish it off maybe at near Xfinity or the sports complexes, we flipped it around this year and went from south to north. Do you guys think that had a lot to do with the whole underdog mentality?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, the Rocky Steps are iconic for this, not just the city, but I mean, it's just that's like a perfect place to just stop in general. I mean, you think about. I mean, going north to south would have been nice too, but I think that area is just like a perfect place for literally everybody to go. It would have been really hectic if we went north to south. It would just no one would know to go. But I mean, City Hall has so many side streets and just places just to hang off of. So I mean,
and
literally and figuratively, but
the draft was there last year at the Art Museum, and it was just different, like, because there were fans from all over the place, and you know, it was exciting and everything, but then seeing the millions of just Eagles fans and watching the Super Bowl, that's what I didn't really expect to be one of my favorite parts yesterday, but watching the Super Bowl again with, 2 million people or whoever was there, not 700,000, that was just amazing, watching all of, like, the best moments that we're going to watch for years to come with 2 million excited people.
And I think it was really great to start on Patterson Avenue, because start where it began, where it all began in the beginning of the season. And I was in South Philly, not by the Art Museum, so it was a great experience. They were Eagles fans, I'll tell you that.
You look at just how everything that happened yesterday. This could honestly, I don't think they came out with an official number yet, but this could crack top 10 in terms of attendance at a Super Bowl.
Definitely.
And I don't know if it's U.S. history or if it's like modern history, whatever have you. There were 5 million people at the Cubs parade last year in 2016 when they won it all for the first time. It seems to me that these first-time events, it's the first time we won the Super Bowl, first time for us seeing it in our primes. I think that's the reason why it made it all so exciting.
Yeah, and again, everyone was so tired and stuff by the end and when the ceremony started. But then some of those speeches just got that crowd way fired up.
Yep.
Kelsey dressing up as the mummer
Yeah.
was one of the
let's pull that up real quick.
It's one of the best images in Philly history. Like, it was just so incredible. That's how much he loves the city and how much he knows that we love this city because he's willing to do that kind of stuff and understand like the culture of Philadelphia.
He gave the speech at the Rocky Steps in that costume,
Yeah,
right? I'd love to learn when he took that off because I'm sure he'd been wearing that all day.
He ended the whole I think he slept in it. There's no way he took that off.
Did the mummers not that happy?
He said if he was going to do a parade in Philadelphia, he had to do it right. He had to be a mummer.
Typical Philly style. There's, like I said earlier in the show, the epitome of Philadelphia sports is Jason Kelsey. We're going to take a quick commercial break, though, and we're going to get over to the off-season and future side of things right after this commercial break.
Hi, this is Eddie Dunn, host of LaSalle's favorite TV game show, Q&A. I'm here today to tell you to watch LaSalle TV. Though if you're seeing this commercial, that means you're already watching LaSalle TV. So I guess keep it up. You're doing an awesome job. I hope you like what you're seeing. Good job.
Hi, I'm Callie Corson.
And I'm Ryan Wall. And you're watching Backstage Pass.
Your #1 source of entertainment news.
Only on LaSalle TV.
Hey, what's up?
Look, I am beyond drunk and I am so hungry. You wanna go get something to eat?
Yeah, I only had like 2 drinks.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, yeah, meet me outside my house in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll meet you at your house. Okay.
What's up, man? Come on, my God, you're so drunk. Just get in my car. Let's go.
Whoa, you're swerving.
I'm fine. You're the drunk one. I only had 2 cups. That's it.
I'm drunk. I thought you were drunk.
I'm not drunk. If I was drunk, I wouldn't be driving. It was just 2 beers. It's not going to do anything.
And welcome back from the commercial break. Again, we are on for a whole hour this time instead of our usual 30 minutes on a Friday with Tyler, Selena, and Dave on desk. Let's talk about a mainstay that was in Philadelphia for so many years. Brian Dawkins, one of the best defensive players, best safeties of all time. He finally gets, well, maybe not finally. We'll talk about his other old teammate. He's in the Hall of Fame now, a 15-year career. You see on the screen, almost 900 tackles. That is just insane. Almost 40 interceptions, almost 40 forced fumbles, and about 26 sacks or so. I mean, reflect on his career real quick.
That's what's insane. He has almost as many forced fumbles as interceptions. That's how hard of a hitter he is. I mean, he was a safety. It's just incredible. Like you think about his career, and that's what comes to mind is those videos on YouTube of him just like laying people out over and over and over again relentlessly.
I don't think he'd be allowed to play in the NFL.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Besides the numbers, I think Brian Dawkins is one of the most notable leaders this team has ever had, like on and off the field. Even now, there's so much video footage of him just hyping up this team, and he's almost like a mentor to them. And he's so important to the city of Philadelphia and to the Eagles.
Yeah, so his identity is huge for this team. I mean, honestly, 20 years down the line, we're still going to be having all this Brian Dawkins jerseys, and like, we're still gonna, some of us still gonna crawl out on the field if we play like high school football. I mean, there's so many people that like I know growing up in high school that have crawled out on the field and just embodied his personality. So I mean, him finally getting in is just like not a weight off his chest, but like a thank God, like thank you for like recognizing a great Eagle that we've all known to love.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I saw more Dawkins jerseys than Wentz jerseys yesterday at the parade, and that says a lot because Wentz was like the top-selling jersey this year, but people still love Dawkins.
Dawkins is an
over
Eagles
anyone.
legend.
It's just.
He still works for the team, so he obviously gets a ring as a member of the Eagles.
Big weekend for him.
Yeah, obviously he wanted his team to win. He was very emotional, as you can see here after the game. He was crying, and he didn't even play in the game. That just shows you how much heart he has for this team. Truly one of the most memorable players that we're ever going to see in an Eagles uniform.
He loves his team, that's for sure.
So let's get into the offseason now. We just won the Super Bowl. Obviously, we're going to spend a good amount of time celebrating this win here. There are some key free agents, though, that we do want to talk about. LeGarrette Blount, he scored a touchdown he scored his first Super Bowl touchdown. This is his third Super Bowl, obviously 2-1 with his former team, the Patriots. Scored his first touchdown in this game. A lot of people were thinking that he was going to have the same season that he did with the Patriots last year with those 18 touchdowns. Talk about him and what you guys think is going to happen with LeGarrette Blount.
I mean, before we talk about like each individual player, I think just in general, I think most of these guys want to stay just because they saw what happened already this year. And I think they could see all the injuries that we had this year and like what could be special next year. So I think without thinking about money, I think just straight up the game itself, I think they all want to come back and just be a part of something special. But to talk about LeGarrette Blount specifically, I think he might want to get paid. I think he deserves to have money. I know we didn't use him as much as like we wanted to, but I think he's still a big piece of that offense that if he's not on the field, it's gonna be something like missing there.
I think he's not the fastest running back, but he's a big physical guy, and he uses his body and he pounds the ball every game, every time he's out there. I don't think he got as many reps as he would have liked, but then again, look at the guys he's sharing with. Look at his this company.
His supporting cast. Yeah.
I think this might be an unpopular opinion on Des, but I don't think that we should re-sign him. I think that he is going to be asking too much money because that's what he did with the Patriots. And our future, I think, is set with Jay Ajayi and Corey Clement. I think together they can do a lot more things than with LeGarrette Blount holding them back.
I'm more inclined to agree with you, Tyler, rather than you, Dave, especially with the possibility of Darren Sproles coming back next year.
Yeah, that's another thing to keep an eye out on. Same with Jason Peters. So obviously we went through a lot of injuries this season. Two of them notably being Darren Sproles and Jason Peters. But for Darren Sproles, do you guys think he can come back and still be as effective on special teams as he has been for most of his career?
I think with any injury, no matter what it is, once you come back, you're always going to miss that first step just a little bit. And I think with that, including with torn ACLs, you're gonna miss a little step, and it's not going to be the same as you used to be. So I mean, I want to say that he's going to be the same type of guy on special teams, but at the same time, you never really know. With that type of injury and with his speed too, I don't know if we're ever going to have to see him make those type of cuts that he's made before.
And not only the injury, but his age. He's definitely older.
Right.
But I would like to see him come back to get another shot and see what he can do. We have a nickname for him in my house. We call him Mighty Mouse because he's small, but he's mighty.
And the cap isn't that big of an issue for the Eagles. No. So re-signing him, I don't think he'll demand that much money. I think he wants to stay with the Eagles and try to win one with him on the team. So I think he's a guy that we should try and keep around for, a few more years at least.
Yeah, definitely something you want to consider, especially with that veteran presence on special teams. Nigel Bradham, he essentially stepped up as our top linebacker when Jordan Hicks went down this season, as you see on the screen here. 88 tackles, pretty impressive for a linebacker, and 1 sack and a forced fumble. Clearly one of the key components of that middle interior of our defense.
Yeah, I think he's the #1 priority this offseason. I don't think we have a lot of priorities this offseason. I think we're pretty good for next season. But Nigel Bradham's definitely the #1 priority. He absolutely balled out this year, and I don't think that he is going to get much notice on the free agent market. For some reason, he is not getting the kind of notice that he deserves among other teams, and I think we're going to be able to sign him for not cheap, but for a decent price, and I think we absolutely need to keep him because if Jordan Hicks keeps up this injury history that he's been having, Nigel Bradham is our guy at linebacker.
Yeah, I think Nigel Bradham is one of the key components to this defense, and that's why they've won so many games this season. I do think he's very underrated, like you said, but that could be to the Eagles' advantage if he doesn't get noticed.
Right, exactly.
That way they won't be competing with contracts and things like that.
Yeah, so like you guys said, I hope he stays low-key on the radar because I don't want someone to snatch him up and I mean, of course, I love Jordan Hicks, but of course, like you said, his history with injuries. If this guy gets picked up by someone else, I mean, we're actually not going to have anyone to fall back on. I mean, he did step up big time, so I hope we circle that name a lot of times when it comes to talking about money and who deserves and who doesn't.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, it's early in the offseason. Like, if we trade Jordan Hicks, which is something that I think we should do, just again because I don't think he'll be able to stay healthy, then it is absolutely crucial that we keep Nigel Bradham because then we'll really just have Kendricks as a quality starting linebacker. We might be able to draft one, but don't have that good of a pick because we won the Super Bowl and we don't have a 2nd and 3rd round pick. So that's why, for me, Nigel Bradham is the #1 priority this offseason.
Definitely something you want to something you want to think about. Let's talk about Trey Burton a little bit, guys. He essentially was one of the more underrated players on this team, along with Corey Clement. Not too many eye-popping or eye-opening stats here, but he did have 23 catches for almost 250 yards, which is good for 11 yards a catch. Very efficient tight end on the team, and 5 touchdowns. He definitely provided a couple sparks here and there, but then he also played quarterback in his day, and he throws that touchdown pass to Nick
Trey
Foles.
Burton for that Philly special, but. In all seriousness, I think with the tight ends that they have, everyone expected Ertz to be the standout star. And while that was somewhat the case, I think Trey Burton was something special this season. Definitely not what we've seen before from him.
Right.
I think he assumed more of a leadership position, and he got it done when it needed to be done.
And we were just talking about how Nigel Bradham is incredibly underappreciated. Trey Burton is a guy that, again, doesn't have much flashy stats, but for some reason the national media has kind of latched onto him. So I think that he might be a little bit too much for us, asking price. So that's why I think that we might not be able to sign him. But, with a guy like Selleck, a lot of people think he's going to retire this year. Then we only have Ertz. But, to replace him, we might, 4th round draft pick or something. I don't think that we should spend a lot of money on him.
Yeah, I was thinking, I mean, the only reason I think we should get him back is because, Selleck probably will retire because he's, and he's done. And I don't know what type of moves we're gonna to do in the off season. If we're gonna go out and try to reach out and get somebody else, or just hope in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds that we get, I don't know, a straggler back down there. But
yeah,
so I hope we do re-sign him, and I hope he does. I hope everything works out so we can come back because like you said, he does have that little spark out there on the offense where. I mean, all eyes are on Ertz, so that gives him free reign to just kind of have no pressure and just do what he has to do.
And he does have more passing yards in the Super Bowl than Dak Prescott, Tony Romo.
Yeah, the list could go on. I know you were referring to some Cowboys players. I love the shade being thrown. Patrick Robinson. We're going to move back over to the defensive side to our secondary. A very, in my opinion, very key pickup this year. Our secondary in past couple years has been known for struggling and letting up a lot of yards. And while they still were kind of doing that this year, Patrick Robinson was a huge player in that secondary. 47 tackles, 4 interceptions, which I believe is pretty up there with team leading, and a sack on the year. And I think the one thing that he's going to be remembered for the most this season is that pick 6 in the NFC Championship game against the Vikings. What do you guys think about his situation and talk about that a little bit?
I think he's really been a leader for these cornerbacks. We have a lot of young guys we've drafted over the last few years because we really started from nothing when Chip Kelly was running the show, and I think he really stepped up and was a leader, and he played really well. But now that we're getting these guys like Rasul Douglas and stuff, I don't really see that there's going to be a spot for Robinson, maybe.
Yeah, I like Patrick Robinson a
Yeah.
lot, but I think he's going to want a lot of money. And with Sidney Jones up and coming, if he
That's
can stay
true.
healthy, I don't know if there's really going to be a spot on the team for him.
Yes, and then you just said exactly what I was thinking. Like, we like Pat Robinson, but like Sidney Jones.
But we like Sidney Jones more.
I was saying,
yeah.
if Sidney Jones is what they say he's gonna be and what he can be, then I don't see Pat Robinson
He just needs to stay
on the
healthy.
team. Yeah, I mean, as long as he stays healthy, it's fine.
I mean, that was really his first big injury, even in his college career. He was a first-round pick, like a top 10 pick going into last year's draft, and we got him in the second round. So if he can get back to that level, then we don't need Patrick Robinson.
Especially if they're trying to make other moves with that limited cap space. Sidney Jones is on a rookie contract.
Yeah.
That's way more of an advantage than signing Patrick Robinson to a big contract.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what we do with all of these free agents. But the biggest question right now, and you know, he went out there, he proved everybody wrong. He's a Super Bowl MVP, Nick Foles. Does he come back next season?
I think that's a tough question.
It is.
For all of us.
I think yes.
I agree.
I think he will, simply because I really don't believe Carson Wentz is going to be healthy enough.
Wentz's future is still in question. I mean, we know he's doing a lot better. He's not using the cane anymore, but we still don't know how long it's going to take him to rehab to get back where he used to be. And you want Nick Foles there, especially if you want a shot at another championship. You want a quarterback. I don't have faith in Nate Sudfeld like I do in Nick Foles. So
I mean, like I said about Sproles, like with his ACL injury, I mean, the same thing with Carson Wentz. He may miss that step that he's always been able to get during the season. So I don't want to give a chance of giving up a good player, the Super Bowl MVP player, to any other team to give them a chance when we can just have him on this team, like maybe have the same magic that we've had for the end of the season. And just
did
keep
you
it
guys
going.
think we'd be having this conversation at the beginning of the season?
No one did.
And that's the thing. It's going to be very tempting for Howie Roseman to deal Nick Foles. I mean, the thing that like we saw with the Browns offering for Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Foles has had obviously more success than Jimmy Garoppolo. His one bad season, he's really only had one bad season, and it was with Jeff Fisher's offense. Which, you know, and Case Keenum also had a bad, season.
And same with Jared Goff.
So we really don't know. This might be what his norm is. So we might see, 2 first-round picks offered for him and crazy stuff by bad teams, and it's going to be tempting. But I think we should absolutely.
And that's gonna be another something to keep into consideration is what offers we get for him. Is there an offer out there that is good enough for us to trade Nick Foles? Me personally, I don't want to see him go specifically, as like I said before. An ACL injury is just something you don't recover from in 6 months or 8 months. I've heard conflicting reports saying that it takes a full 2 years to recover from like fully recover, not just like recover enough to the point where you can come back and play. But either way, it's a very long timetable.
Yeah, unless you're Adrian Peterson, who if you're like an animal, it's gonna take some time for that to heal, and just for even you just be able to run, it's gonna take some time to just come back.
Usually they say 9 months for them to be back on the field, and then 12 months for them to be actually where they started from. So that's December when he could potentially be back to the Wentz we saw last year.
Yes, right.
And so that first month of the season, if we know that Nick Foles can win us some football games, I say we put him out there.
And I think that we know what we want the Eagles to be and what they can be. So having him out there can help them win. And if he plays well, that will just only increase his value.
Right. I agree. That's probably going to be the biggest off-season or free agent question that we're going to have to figure out sooner than later. But before we move on to our next segment, it hurts to say this because, Dave, I don't know how you did it. We send in picks every week to Kevin, who then sets up the graphic, and it reveals our picks for the game and our MVPs and whatnot. Let's pull up the graphic real quick. Dave is our regular, or just not regular season, overall.
You mispronounced my name. David Amazing Roberts. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dave, as you can see, he went 16-2 on the season with an almost 89% winning percentage. Kyle, our old host, ironically enough, came in second. I'm somewhere on there, not on the screen. I'm like middle of the pack. Same with Tyler and Selena. You could catch her down there. Steve, our producer, you stink. Going whatever it was, 6 and 8.
Steve tended to pick against the Eagles.
The moral of the story is don't pick against the
Eagles.
Come on.
He picked against the Eagles and they won, so maybe he should just keep picking against them.
Yeah, keep doing that for next year so we can get this.
All of us picked the Eagles basically all season, and we had great winning percentages, obviously showing how great.
That is what I actually wanted to talk about. My 2 losses that I know for sure. The one is the Seahawks loss. I thought we were going to win that game. The other one is the Cowboys because, I mean, I didn't care at that point. I was like, we're going to win.
Asterisk that game.
My win is the one win I had. I know that I actually didn't pick the Eagles was the Chiefs game, and I just thought we weren't ready for that game. And clearly we had a almost comeback win, but
yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to our next segment here. Everyone's favorite on Sports Talk Philadelphia, Fast Five. Tyler, we're going to go over to you. We mentioned it earlier in the show. What's your opinion on John DeFilippo taking that offensive coordinator spot for the Vikings?
I mean, I think we knew it would happen. He did such great work with Derek Carr and then Carson Wentz, and we saw that drop off with Carr kind of a little bit after he left. Had to do with injury too, but still. And so I think we expected it, but I would love to see someone in-house, replace him. They're talking about, like I said before, Mike Groh maybe, or the assistant QB coach, but someone that has worked with Wentz before.
Sure.
I would want to see that.
Yeah, another question to figure out this offseason. Selena, we're going to go over to you. What do you think about Frank Reich being on the horizon as an option for the Colts head coach?
Yeah, well, I think the Colts got screwed over a little bit when Josh McDaniels decided he didn't want to be their coach anymore. So I think Frank Reich, I think they interviewed him already, one of their leading candidates. I wouldn't like to see him go, especially with losing John DeFilippo, but I think he might be a good fit for the Colts.
Sure.
I'm not so sure how I see him as a head coach because I know Doug called a lot of the shots for the offense this year, but we'll see.
Dave, we're going to go over to you. We're going to switch it up a little bit and go over to the Sixers. They host the Pelicans tonight. Who do you got in this game?
I still have the Sixers because the Pelicans is just Anthony Davis. And it's just going to be Anthony Davis for a little bit because of Boogie's injury. But, I think Embiid is going to shut him down. If Ben Simmons keeps playing like he's playing, this should be a good game to watch.
Selena, over to you now. Another Sixers question. We were informed today that we might see Markelle Fultz this season, and we might not see Markelle Fultz this season. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's always been that issue with the lack of transparency between Brian Colangelo and the Sixers front office and the fans and the media. I don't think Markelle Fultz is going to make his Sixers debut this season. At this point, I would just sit him out. He still can't. He doesn't have a shot. He doesn't have a shot. So if he's not injured anymore, just let him work on that.
Tyler, real quick, Eagles walkthrough, the fake walkthrough. Are you surprised?
Yeah, no, because Doug Peterson is very smart, and he's calculating like Brian or like Bill Belichick, and I'm glad it worked.
Well, it was definitely a fun show. Like we said, it's an hour-long extravaganza. You're welcome again, Tyler. You can check us out on all social media, which includes Twitter, Facebook, Gmail, YouTube, and you can go to lasalle.edu/LaSalleTV. You can catch us there. It was truly an amazing Eagles season, an amazing time talking about the Eagles. We're not going to make it our mainstay next year the next upcoming shows to talk about them, but it has been a blast, and we will see you guys next week.